You're sitting across from her at dinner. She's upset again. Not because you forgot something big. Not because you betrayed her. But because your tone felt off, your text took too long, your face looked distant for half a second, and now the whole night has collapsed into tension. You're there, physically. But emotionally, it feels like you're standing in a room full of tripwires, trying not to set off the next one. And in your head, it's loud. Why does everything feel so hard? Why am I always trying to fix the mood? Why do I feel guilty when I didn't even do anything wrong? Is she asking for love or control? Am I the problem here? Here's the truth most people miss. A relationship doesn't become exhausting because one person cares too much. It becomes exhausting when love gets tangled up with fear, unmet needs, and emotional instability that no one knows how to name. So let me say this clearly. You're not cold, you're not selfish, and this does not automatically mean she's a bad person. By the end of this video, you're going to understand the difference between a woman who simply has needs and a woman whose unresolved emotional patterns make the relationship feel heavy, chaotic, and impossible to relax inside. Let's get into it. Most people believe high maintenance means she likes nice things, wants attention, or expects effort. But the real truth is that truly difficult relationship dynamics usually have less to do with standards and more to do with emotional regulation. That's the part most couples never talk about. Your partner's nervous system is reading your behavior before her mind can slow down and interpret it fairly. So what looks like too much on the surface is often fear beneath the surface. Fear of abandonment, fear of not being enough, fear of being unseen. And when that fear runs the relationship, love doesn't disappear. It goes underground. That matters more than you think. Because if you only call her high maintenance, you'll miss the deeper pattern. And if you romanticize the chaos as passion, you'll miss it too. Not drama, not neediness, not she just cares more, but a nervous system that does not know how to feel safe in closeness. And here's what changes everything. Once you can see the pattern clearly, you stop personalizing every reaction and start asking a better question. Is this relationship asking for more love? Or is it demanding that one person carry emotions the other person hasn't learned to hold? So let's talk about the signs. Most couples think effort automatically creates peace. But in relationships like this, effort often just raises the bar. You text more, reassure more, explain more, show up more, and somehow she still feels let down. The deeper truth is that when someone has a wound around worthiness or abandonment, love can feel temporary no matter how real it is. Her nervous system keeps scanning for what's missing because stability feels unfamiliar. So instead of receiving your presence, she measures your performance. It sounds like this. Disconnecting version. I literally took you out, called you, and cleared my whole night for you. And she says, if you really cared, I wouldn't have had to ask. Connecting version sounds different. I can see you wanted more from me tonight. Help me understand what felt missing without making what I did mean nothing. That changes the whole temperature. Because the issue is no longer whether you did enough. It's whether the two of you can tell the truth without erasing each other. And when you do that, the relationship stops feeling like a test you're always failing and starts feeling like a place where something real can finally be named. Here's the part no one talks about. Most people in relationships don't realize that overreactions are rarely about the moment itself. They're about what the moment touches. A delayed reply is not a delayed reply. It becomes, I'm not important. A tired tone is not a tired tone. It becomes, you're pulling away. That's how unresolved pain works. It takes a tiny present-day trigger and plugs it into an old emotional socket. So she feels abandoned fast. She feels threatened fast. And you feel confused fast. You say, I was in a meeting, but her inner world is already screaming, I knew it. I always end up caring more. That's why logic bounces off. Her mind is not in debate mode. It's in defense mode. And most couples never figure this out, bro, because they keep arguing facts while the real fight is happening in the nervous system. Connecting looks different. Not apologizing for existing. Not surrendering your freedom. Not walking on eggshells. But calmly saying, I hear that this hit something deeper for you. I'm here. But we need to talk about what happened without turning it into a disaster. That creates structure. And structure creates safety. That's the shift that turns chaos from something contagious into something the relationship no longer has to obey. This is where it gets really interesting. Most couples think reassurance is always healthy. And sometimes it is. But when reassurance becomes the oxygen of the relationship, you start to notice something painful. The relief never lasts. You say the right thing, she softens. For an hour, maybe a day, then the doubt comes back. Do you still want me? Are we okay? Why do you seem different? Tell me the truth. The deeper emotional truth is that when someone is disconnected from internal safety, they outsource it. They need your words to stabilize feelings they haven't learned to stabilize themselves. So your love becomes less like warmth and more like a medication that keeps wearing off. And in her head, something unspoken is saying, if he stops proving it, I disappear. Now compare these two moments. Disconnecting version, how many times do I have to tell you I love you? Connecting version, I can reassure you, and I want to. But we also need to notice why the reassurance never lands for long. That's not rejection, that's maturity. Because this isn't a communication hack. This is what emotionally mature people do when they refuse to confuse comfort with healing. And when you do that, your partner stops feeling like a bottomless need and starts feeling like someone standing at the edge of an important truth. And this is the one most couples never figure out. Healthy conflict moves toward repair. Unhealthy conflict moves toward punishment. That's a massive difference. Most couples argue to be understood. But when someone is carrying unresolved damage, conflict can become a way to regain control, discharge pain, or make the other person feel the insecurity they're carrying inside. So now the fight is not about solving anything. It's about winning. It's about guilt. It's about making you hurt too. Maybe she brings up old mistakes every time she's triggered. Maybe she threatens to leave just to watch you panic. Maybe she withholds affection until you chase. Underneath it, what she may be feeling is, if I can make him feel what I feel, maybe I won't be alone in this. Pain does that. It reaches for company. But here's what nobody explained. Not more intensity, not sharper honesty, not one perfect speech that fixes everything, but two people who can stay respectful even when they're disappointed, hurt, and activated. That sounds like this. Disconnecting version. Forget it. You clearly don't care. Maybe we should just end this. Connecting version. I'm hurt, and part of me wants to shut down or attack right now, but I don't want to do that to us. That is emotional adulthood. And when that enters the room, the walls between you start to come down without either of you having to say a word. Honestly, this sign matters more than almost all the others. Most people in relationships spend too long evaluating whether the other person is lovable instead of asking whether the relationship is livable. Big difference. You can care deeply about someone and still be slowly drained by the emotional climate around them. If you're always bracing, always over-explaining, always managing moods, always editing your tone, your body will tell you before your mind does. You stop relaxing, you stop speaking freely. You start anticipating reactions instead of expressing truth. That's not connection, that's adaptation. And over time, your inner voice starts saying, I don't even feel like myself around her anymore. That sentence matters, because most couples normalize emotional exhaustion when they've been inside it too long. They call it love. They call it passion. They call it relationships are hard, but a healthy relationship may challenge you. It should not chronically dysregulate you. So compare this. Disconnecting version, I just won't bring it up. It's not worth the fight. Connecting version, I care about you, but I can't keep abandoning myself to keep this relationship calm. That sentence is powerful. Not cruel, not selfish. Real. And when you say it from a grounded place, the relationship stops being a place where you disappear and starts becoming a place where truth finally has a seat at the table. Most couples were never taught this. They were taught to chase chemistry, to worship obsession, to mistake emotional highs and lows for deep connection. But intensity is not intimacy. Intensity is fast, intimacy is safe, intensity pulls you in with urgency, intimacy lets you exhale. And when someone is emotionally wounded, calm love can actually feel boring because their system has been trained to associate unpredictability with aliveness. So if things are steady, she gets restless. If things are peaceful, she creates friction. If you are consistent, she questions your depth. Why? Because chaos feels familiar. And familiar feels like home, even when it hurts. Emotional distance in a relationship isn't always a wall. Sometimes it's scar tissue, formed slowly over 100 unrepaired moments. And what's moving through her may be, if it's calm, maybe it's not real. Now listen to the contrast. Disconnecting version. Why are you acting weird? Why aren't you more emotional about this? Connecting version. I'm noticing that peace feels unfamiliar to me, and I don't want to sabotage something healthy just because it feels different. That is huge. Because the goal is not to feel fireworks every hour. The goal is to feel safe enough to stay present when nothing dramatic is happening. That's the shift that turns a relationship from a roller coaster into a refuge. And here's what changes everything. Most couples think the main question is whether two people love each other enough. It isn't. The real question is whether both people are willing to take responsibility for the patterns they bring into the room. Because love without responsibility becomes a cycle. Apology. Explosion. Distance. Reunion. Repeat. And that cycle can feel intense, even meaningful, while quietly destroying trust. As a woman who is hurt deserves compassion. Absolutely. But pain is not a free pass. Trauma is not an excuse to wound people and call it depth. That's a hard truth. A necessary one too. If every conversation about her behavior turns into your failure, if every boundary becomes proof you don't care, if every attempt at repair gets redirected away from accountability, then you are not building with someone. You are carrying someone. And most people in relationships stay too long in that dynamic because they keep thinking, if I love her better, maybe she'll finally feel safe enough to stop hurting me. Maybe. But maybe not. Connecting sounds like this. Disconnecting version. This is just how I am. If you loved me, you'd accept it. Connecting version. I know I've been bringing unhealed patterns into this relationship and I want to take ownership of that. That's the line. Right there. Not perfection, not never being triggered, not instant change, but ownership, effort, repair, a willingness to look in the mirror without turning away. And when that happens, she stops feeling like someone you have to manage and starts feeling like someone you can actually build a real life with. So no, this isn't a checklist for judging women. It's a lens for seeing clearly, and that matters. Because when you understand these patterns, you stop getting hypnotized by chemistry and start paying attention to emotional safety, presence, and repair. You stop asking, how do I keep this person happy? And start asking, can both of us create a relationship where honesty doesn't feel dangerous? That's a different level of love, a real one. This isn't about becoming colder, it's about becoming clearer. It's about learning that compassion without boundaries becomes self-betrayal, and attraction without emotional stability becomes drift, confusion, and walls. These aren't just tips, they're standards. They're the beginning of becoming the kind of partner who can love deeply without losing yourself in the process.